Is this the moment that Donald Trump saw his hubris evaporate into nemesis?
Well, it's certainly been the defining moment of his presidency. Everything that he's done up to this point has led to this. You started way back, if you knew him at all during the campaign, the rhetoric was the kind of rhetoric that incited this kind of behavior. And so we're just reaping what he has been sowing, and we've allowed him to sow for the last 4 years. In fact, we've hung on every word, and he's gotten so much attention every time he tweets out something that is indefensible. And so this is his last hurrah. He seems to be spinning out of control now, as does Rudy Giuliani, because he was very much a part of what went on today. He was right there with the president telling everybody to march on Capitol Hill and that you've got to fight this because they're trying to steal the election. Everything based on these lies that he's been feeding people for so long that unfortunately we're going to have to live with this for quite a while. It's going to be a hard road to hoe for Joe Biden to bring people back together. But I really believe that if anyone can, he can.
And indeed, I mean, Mitt Romney's saying now we gather due to I'm just quoting him, now we gather due to a selfish man's injured pride and the outrage of supporters who he has deliberately misinformed for the past 2 months and stirred to action this very morning. Again, this question, it's a huge own goal for him, isn't it? And a huge own goal for his protesters.
Yes, I mean, this is what they've been wanting to do, and they wanted the okay to do it. And he really gave it to them today. As I said, did Rudy Giuliani, the two of them. They said, go ahead, go after it, fight for it, get it back. And what we saw today was just appalling. But unfortunately, you know, we like to say this is not America, but it is. It's the America of Donald Trump today. And we desperately need to restore the balance because it is not who we have been traditionally as a people. It is not who we want to be. But right now, we cannot deny that this is very much a part of what America is today. It's not all of America. You see people now standing up, making strong comments. I think one of the things that's going to be really telling, and I just haven't heard it yet, is whether the senators and the congresspeople who are going to object to the count of some of those electoral votes in the contested states are still going to do that. I would hope that they understood by what happened today that this is no longer, they can't do that. This was a free and fair election. It was safe, it was accurate, and we just need to go ahead and recognize that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be taking the oaths of office on the 20th of January.
Governor Whitman, I'm just wondering, what are the prospects for a peaceful transfer of power?
Well, if there's going to be a peaceful transfer of power, I absolutely believe it. It's not going to be an easy one because the Trump administration already has made it very difficult for the transition to occur. They are not allowing, for instance, when the transition teams are what we call parachuted in, when they go to their various departments to start to work through what the big issues are, they can't meet with the career staff without a political person being there, which has really constrained the dialogue. They also are having difficulty getting access to all the information that they want and they need. The Trump people are making this as difficult as possible, but it will still happen, because there are enough civil servants who are part of this government that just are not going to allow this to continue. And as soon as they get the opportunity, as soon as the oath of office is taken by Joe Biden, they're going to stand up and be willing and free to tell people exactly what they need to hear. So it will ultimately be peaceful in the sense that the government changing hands, whether it will be peaceful in the streets at that moment, or whatever Donald Trump plans to do on that day, whether he goes to the inaugural or he stages another event, we just don't know. That might be a little less peaceful, but as far as the continuance of government, that is going to continue and it is going to be peaceful.
We've had a chorus of condemnation from within the U.S. and outside the U.S. as well. What impact will this have on Trumpism from here? Will it suffer a backlash, you think?
I think there will be. I think you've actually seen some of the most ardent Trump supporters in the House and the Senate speaking this evening, saying how deplorable what happened today was. And I think they're beginning to understand this is what they signed up for when they refused to constrain this president or criticize him at any point during the last 3.5 years. And I do think this is a stain on him. I mean, it was deplorable what we saw today, inexcusable. And it's all due to Donald Trump. I mean, he owns this 100%, just the way he owns the fact that the Senate has now been captured by the Democrats because of what he has been doing and telling people and undermining their confidence in the vote. And he did it in Georgia just over the weekend when he went down to supposedly support the two Republican candidates for the Senate. He doesn't care about the party. He doesn't care about the country. He only cares about himself. And I think people are beginning to recognize that, even some of his most ardent supporters.
Governor, the question has to be also, and you alluded to it earlier, how does Joe Biden bring what seems to be a highly polarized America together in his term as presidency?
Well, I think the Congress was really shaken today. If you listen to what the leadership said on both sides of the aisle, what some of the members are saying, this was something totally out of their realm of experience, and it scares them. I think it scared them. And I think you will find that, well, obviously now that the Democrats control the Senate, Chuck Schumer is going to be the leader, and he does have a good working relationship with the president. But I think you'll find Mitch McConnell much more anxious to try to make things work, to understand how far they let things drift apart and how damaging it is for the country and for their reputations on getting anything done. I think that really, in a way, this is going to make things, if you can take any good out of something as bad as this, a little bit easier for Joe Biden to bring people together. And when you start getting that message from the top, it helps. That's what then trickles down. This is why it's been so hard in the country. You've had a president who's controlled the media, and the president does. Every president does that. They're the center of attention, who has been vitriolic in everything that he's said and done. And he has been stirring all this up. And when you have a president who someone might call him boring, but you know what? Boring would be really nice right about now. I think we're ready for that. We're ready for consistency. We're ready for confidence. We're ready for quiet and patriotism. And Joe Biden has all those things. And he has always shown that he wants to work across the aisle. He can work across the aisle. He has worked across the aisle to get things done. So I believe he's the right man for the right time. He will have a more willing Congress because they have been shaken by what happened today. And that will start to permeate down to the states and to the people in general as to how to behave.
Governor, it's been such a contentious election. Is there a need for, I guess, security election reforms? How do you take it forward?
There are a number of suggestions on how to reform the system, whether it's something like allowing more of what the president objects to, which is the voting by mail, making it easier, tightening some of the rules. There are a number of suggestions that are out there that will be looked at very closely. I mean, obviously, it all has to be done within the confines of the Constitution, but there are a number of things that can be done to try to ensure that the process is open, that everyone is allowed to vote, that people aren't being arbitrarily kept from the polls. So there you'll see, I really believe you will see a number of reforms, both at the state and at the federal level, aimed at trying to ensure we don't go through anything like this again.
Governor, where does this all leave the Republican Party as they tied themselves to Donald Trump very tightly over the last 4 years and all this happens? What's the state of the Republican Party looking ahead now?
Well, I don't think there is a Republican Party. There's a Trump Party made up of a lot of people who were Republicans, but there are a whole lot of Republicans that have left the party that have no interest in this kind of behavior or not this type of Republican. And I think what you're going to see, I mean, remember, the Republican Party started as a third party. The party of Lincoln, that was a third party. And we may have to do that again for those of us that are fiscally conservative but socially moderate, who don't find a home in the Trump Party. There's got to be a place for us. And, oh, by the way, there are a number of Democrats that are very concerned about the liberal trend of the Democrat Party, who are also looking for a more centrist home. And what's scary right now is the only national party, to my mind, is the Democrat Party, because the Republicans are so split. And Donald Trump helped ensure that we were having this civil war within the party. And so it's no longer a national party. There's no there. And so that's dangerous because that doesn't lead to a good place. We need another centrist, I believe. We need a centrist or a conservative right party and a conservative left that can, or a moderate right and a moderate left that can start to work together to make things happen. And the good news is that within the Congress, in both houses, in each of the houses, we have members of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a group that comes together that has ensured and decided that if they get 3/4 of them to agree to a position on an issue, that they will vote as a bloc. And given that both the numbers in the House and the Senate are so close, they're going to have a lot of sway. And their whole reason for being is to get things done and address the big issues.